Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So here at Grand Canyon University, earlier today I saw one of my students, and we had a short discussion about the anniversary of 9/11 today, obviously. And I was a little surprised she didn't know what year 9/11 was. She was born a few years after that. I sometimes forget even that pretty much all of my students now were not alive when 9/11 happened, and they're very fortunate. It was a very turbulent time. I was 14 years old, and it kind of turned my world upside down, right? It wasn't like COVID, where I was already somewhat independent and I got to enjoy a different lifestyle. No, I was, when 9/11 happened, I was living with my family, and one of my students today told me, "Oh, what year was it?" She didn't know about it. It was almost like talking about Pearl Harbor or D-Day. It's pretty common for people to not remember the years of those things, right? Or maybe JFK being shot. I think most people could recognize the year JFK was shot. Maybe not, but you could understand if people didn't remember the years of that, right? And now 9/11 has been added to that list, right? It's kind of interesting now looking back at it. South Park one time made a reference that things become funny after 22.3 years, right? They had an episode about AIDS, and AIDS had just turned 22.3 years old. And South Park said that, oh, we can laugh about it now. Don't you see? It's been 22.3 years. And I kind of see where that comes from, right? By the time 22.3 years has gone by since an event, whether it be a terrorist attack or the death of a president, a lot of the younger generation, right, your high school, college age people are not going to be alive when that happened. And they're going to laugh about it. Oh, the 9/11 was a footnote from the past, right? Or JFK being shot, right? Certainly, I never took JFK being shot as seriously as somebody who lived through it, right? That's probably where the 22.3 years come from. It's kind of like the reason we have a major conflict or a major pandemic every 100 years is because when the last person involved in it is gone, we tend to repeat the same mistakes all over again, right? So that's why major disasters have this 100-year cycle, right? Depressions, pandemics, conflicts, they all tend to have this 100-year repetition because when the last person involved has passed away, we forget about all the lessons involved. I think there were a couple stories about a few people who have caught both Spanish flu and COVID-19, right? They were few and far between, right? That's probably why. I distinctly remember the day of 9/11, though. I was going to college part time, and I remember my mom and I were at the student aid department when everybody was just frozen uh, their screens, and we still hadn't heard the news yet. Nobody wanted to talk about it, and all of a sudden, a professor that both my mom and I knew very well came up to us and said that, "Did you hear what happened on the news? The Twin Towers had been destroyed." And we still couldn't comprehend what was going on. At first, I thought he was talking about that bombing in 1993. There was some kind of memorial or something like that. And then he went on to talk about airplanes, and I thought it had been an accident. I think by the time our professor had come to had been screaming about this, the Pentagon hadn't been hit yet, or maybe it was just after. News hadn't gone to us at least, and it was just the Twin Towers because I distinctly remember him saying the Twin Towers. I don't think Flight 93 had happened yet, or at least we hadn't heard about it yet. And it just got worse and worse and worse as the day went on. What was really interesting was that on the way home, my mom drove me home, and she had stopped at a Joanne Fabrics to take her mind off of what was going on. For many years after 9/11, I thought that was weird. Like after that big event, you go to Joanne Fabrics. But then something else happened in my life that made me realize why she would want to take her mind off of that. in March of 2020, I was living out of my car. I was living in Seattle, Washington, when I all of a sudden my favorite coffee shop was closed for obvious reasons, and then I looked, and precious metal prices and stock prices had all collapsed, and I got hell bent on trying to buy this 1,000 ounce silver bar. And there was a lot of orders going on and a lot of fraudulent activity going on, obviously. And they made you go through all these hoops, send in your tax documents from last year, prove who you are. And I really went crazy trying to jump through. And I got the order. And the reason I went crazy, I think two reasons. Number one, a couple years before COVID-19, I had been trying to buy some other precious metals, iridium, rhodium, and I gave up because it was too convoluted to jump through all those hoops, and I really regretted it. But I think the other reason was to take my mind off of all that was going on, right? I was living out of my car. Oh no, by the time I placed the order for the 1,000 ounce silver bar, I had a place to go to now. But my favorite stores were closed, and I couldn't see my girlfriend. I was trying to take my mind off of that. And so after 12 years, I finally, or after 19 years now, I finally understood why my mom went to Joanne Fabrics after all this drama had unfolded that one day, right? And now, 22 years later, my students are asking, oh, what year was 9/11, right? Someday, my students are going to ask me, what year was COVID-19, or what year was January 6th, right? I'm going to really feel old when I hear that question, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum.